Parents of Reddit, what is your best "why is my kid so stupid" moment? My youngest, around the age of 3, lost having curtains in his room after the second time he bent the hook that the curtain rod hangs onto because he tried swinging on his curtains. It turns out that the tiny piece of metal that's designed to hold the weight of a curtain rod is not designed to support a child. Several years later we'd moved to a new house, and decided he was certainly old enough to stop swinging on curtains. We made sure to sit down with him to explain that when he was little, he would swing on them, and that it broke the curtain rods. Now that he was around 6 or 7, he was old enough to remember not to climb the curtains. He lost the curtains the next day, after he tried swinging on them. Perhaps he thought we were lying to him? Okay, but that could happen to anyone. And 6 or 7, that's still pretty young. When he was 10, he grabbed the wooden towel bar in the bathroom, and fell backwards. And then kept falling, because the small wooden rod was only attached to the rest of the towel bar via a small piece of wood that was glued to the main structure, and, once again, was meant to support the weight of a wet towel or two, not a 10-year-old child. Damn near gave himself a concussion on the side of the bathtub that time. One time my mom asked me what color my eyes were, so I started looking around trying to see them. A true visionary. Not my kid, but my niece loves crawling around on the floor trying to lick doorstops. When she's not doing that, she actively searches for dust/lint on the floor and tries to devour it before you take it from her. I worked at a daycare for a while. There was a toddler who came in with what looked like rug burns on his forehead and nose. When I asked Mom what happened, she sighed and said he has to lick the spots of light on the carpet. I just imagined a 3-year-old with vacant eyes saying it tastes like sunshine. My son asked the minister if he was allowed to bring his invisible friend to a children's activity. Jesus is always with you, especially if juice boxes and cookies are provided. My mom used to tell the story about how I got freaked out at a Bible camp as a small kid when they told us that Jesus lived in your heart. It turns out I wasn't quite ready for metaphors. When we allowed our kids to choose a pint of ice cream each, my son insisted on grabbing the gallon and wouldn't be told differently. We placed it back in the freezer and told him we were going to check out, so he had 1 minute to grab a different ice cream or get nothing. As our turn to check out comes, our son approaches with both the same gallon of ice cream as well as a jar of maraschino cherries. A haggler I see. My daughter tested as gifted, then got into the bathtub with her socks on that night. A true intellectual. My 4-year-old son just the other day spilled his water bottle on the floor. I told him to get paper towels to wipe it up. He does. Then I told him to throw the towels in the trash. He wrings them back out onto the floor before he throws them in the trash. Facepalm. Ha ha ha. My mother always brings up when she asked my brother to turn on the kettle and he answered, "Shall I make it hot or cold?" and I thought I was stupid. I'd absolutely ask for cold in such case. If he doesn't make it cold, well, that was some fun. If he somehow did, jackpot. As my physics professor repeatedly said, it doesn't happen, but if you've somehow found a way to make it work like that, patent that shit. When my brother was around 6, he decided he wanted to play Tarzan with a cord hanging in his room. However, the cord kept slipping from his hand, so he decided to swing with it around his neck instead. My poor grandmother walked into the room to find her grandchild apparently trying to hang himself. One night, my brother had a dream. He was being chased by a bear through the woods. No matter how fast he ran, the bear continued to gain on him. At last, he came to a cliff. He had 2 options: throw himself from the cliff onto the rocks below, or be mauled by the bear. He chose the cliff. But wait. Just as he was about to jump, he noticed a vine hanging in midair, just a few feet away from the cliff. He leapt for it, just barely escaping the jaws of the hungry grizzly. That was when he woke up. I should mention that my brother and I shared a bunk bed, and he had the top bunk. The cliff was the edge of his bed. The vine was the pull chain of our ceiling fan. He had about half of a second to realize what an idiot he was before crashing to the ground, with the broken pull chain in hand. when I caught him peeing in the doorway of his room at the age of 5. His reason? Cause I don't want the kitty coming into my room. My oldest recently asked me if our dogs are covered under my health insurance. She's 19. Psych, you can actually do that. I don't know if your workplace offers pet insurance, but mine does, so your daughter might have read about the option somewhere and wondered if yours did, too. When my sister was 18, she was planning a trip to California after HS graduation. She spent several days calling banks to get the exchange rate for money because somehow she was absolutely convinced that regular US currency in Pennsylvania was not usable in California. She thought the banks were all lying to her that it was the same money. I am surprised she even found California. So how was her trip? Not good. She couldn't figure out how to get a California visa. One time when I was half asleep as a kid, I got out of bed to go to the toilet, but instead of turning left into the bathroom I turned right and pissed down the stairs. Me too, I used to end up peeing in the kitchen trash can. My grandfather ended up coming into the kitchen to see what I was doing, and I just looked up at him asking what's wrong as I rubbed my eye. It was fun to wake up in the middle of the night and do things wrong. My older brother carved my name into the side of my mum's car with a rock for whatever reason and tried to blame it on me. I was like 4 years old and couldn't write yet. My mom told me about when she was a kid and one time she scratched her name into the dining room table. She did it absent-mindedly and freaked out when she realized what she did, so she scratched all her brothers' names into the table too. I'm amazed at how many times I've had to say don't lick that. I don't have kids, but my nephews were over visiting for Thanksgiving. The youngest was 2.5. We have pet chinchillas and we showed him that if he offered the chinchillas an apple would stick, the chinchilla would take it from him and start gnawing on it. Well, obviously, this was great fun, so he started giving the chinchillas dozens of sticks, which I'm sure they loved him for. No harm, no foul, by the way. It's not like it's unhealthy for them. It was just getting excessive. At some point his grandpa said enough and teasingly, for every stick you give them you have to eat one too. Guess who took several nibbles of a stick before anyone could stop him? My son, who was 8 at the time, and an only child, carved his very long name into the toilet seat. Then claimed he didn't do it. Lol. When I learned to write my initials, I promptly carved them into the top of our TV. When my parents found it and asked me about it, I told them I didn't do it, and they asked me who did. Maybe, brother, did it. Your 2-month-old brother? As a kid I wrote my younger brother's name on wallpaper. Had some of the letters backwards and all unaligned. Blamed it on him. Parents believed me. My brother wasn't old enough to know how to write. Fortunately he didn't even get into any trouble. Parents were too impressed he'd managed it. I've tried to be a better brother after that. Our daughter, when asked what she wanted to be when she grows up, answered, I want to be a strawberry, but if that's too hard I want to be purple, the color purple. The fruit strawberry. She was 5. I told my class when I was 4 that I wanted to be a parrot. It sounded cool to be a colorful bird, you know? Then some kid told me that was impossible, little jerk. I support your daughter's goals. I know. Pricks. I got her a strawberry costume for Halloween. That'll show them. When my daughter was around 5 years old, I told her to start putting her toys away. She told me she couldn't because she didn't have any hands, while showing me her hands, unamused face. My daughter was wrapped up in a towel like a burrito after a bath, tried to point to something in the book I was reading to her while she dried, and suddenly freaked out because she couldn't find her hands. Sounds about right. Lol. When I was a kid, my little brother woke up and thought he saw Frankenstein walking down our hallway in the middle of the night. He took off running in his underwear, out the door, down the block, several blocks really. A couple picked him up maybe 4 blocks away and brought him home. He was on his way to my grandmother's trailer a good half-mile away. Kicker was, the Frankenstein he saw was my grandmother who was staying with us that night. Took a while to live that one down. He gets extra points for having a decent plan anyway. I was the stupid kid. I was at my cousin's above ground pool when I was around 5 and there was a bumblebee sitting on the deck. My mom saw it, and said go around it. I proceeded to step on it and get stung. I think my little brain said jump over it and instead I jumped on it. A bee lost its life that day. When Iz was about 6 I was at a friend's house and sat on a cactus by mistake. Obligatory not a parent but younger family member. He was 5 at the time and it was his birthday. He got grounded earlier the day because he was being a little shithead at church, so his punishment was he was allowed to open his presents but not allowed to play with them until his punishment was over. He was not happy about this and he came up with an excellent strategy to get back at his parents. He decided that if he wasn't going to be allowed to play with them today he would punish his parents by never playing with them. To accomplish this he tried to throw them away. He got a big bag, threw all of the toys in and kept walking around the house in circles trying to find a garbage bin big enough to throw them in. So his logic was, I want to play with these toys, if you won't allow me to play with them today then I'll never play with them. He really is a sweet kid, though he was just having a really bad week. Our kids were probably 10 and 6. We are at a restaurant and they both order hot chocolate. Our drinks come, both my wife and I are putting our straws in our own drinks and not paying attention. Both of the children simultaneously stick straws into the steaming hot chocolate and take huge drinks. And start freaking out. I am a 34-year-old man. I suppose at some point I knew this, but does drinking hot things through straws make it burn more? Not necessarily. Just quickly filling your mouth with it does. Son always has mystery bruises, swears he doesn't run into things. We hear him yell ouch from his room, the bathroom, or when he opens the fridge into his face. Last night he was on his tiptoes looking at something on the table. He lowered to his flat feet and almost bit his stupid fucking tongue off because his chin was still over the table. So much blood. Not to armchair parent, but you might want to take him to the eye doctor. As a former highly uncoordinated small person with glasses, still ran into things at an alarming rate. Nearly demolished a painting off a wall once, just trying to go down the hallway. Lamau. My daughter insists wearing a jacket will make her cold because she only wears it when she is cold. Can't refute that logic. When a sudden rainstorm hit our campsite, my 11-year-old rescued a full water bucket from the rain and put it under the canopy to keep it dry. When I was 11 we were at a park that had one of those swirly slides that is kind of like a tunnel. Well, I wanted to act like a mountain climber and tie a rope around myself and jump down the slide to climb back up. What was the best spot to tie the rope? I asked myself. The neck. Good location to easily grab the rope and pull myself back up, plus convenient tying spot. My parents ran to me yelling and stopped me mid-knot, tying a rope around my neck to jump down a slide. In retrospect, I'm a dumbass. Edit, thank you for my first silver kind stranger. You should be grateful to your parents, like really grateful, because of them you can comment about your stupidity. Oh yes, I am very grateful. My whole life has been a super lucky ride, dancing in front of the Grim Reaper. My son, at age 10. I was trying to figure out why my shower was draining so slowly and wound up pulling the drain strainer out. Inside I found a bunch of brown paper goop. It took me a while to figure out what it was. I went to my son and asked him, did you tear up a toilet paper tube into little pieces and cram those pieces down the drain in the shower? Yes. Okay. Brain fries / how about not? Sure. How else is he going to get the drain to stop? My parents caught me talking to myself when I was around 5. I had just gotten out of the shower and was staring at myself in the mirror. I had sucked my lips under my teeth and telling myself I have no lips. I have no lips. My mom started laughing and asking what I was doing, to which I replied by popping my lips back to their regular position and exclaiming, lips. After all these years. Even I knew I was stupid after that one. That's not stupid, that's funny. My toddler watched at least an hour of an animated movie populated entirely by talking animals. Suddenly, a giraffe came on screen and said something. My kid stood up, pointed at the TV, and angrily yelled, "What? Giraffes can't talk." LOL, this was funny. He must have a problem with giraffes. Stupid long horses. https://www.reddit.com/r/pics/or_this_co_8pp5z/. If I can be the kid who made my parents ask this question. I walked into a wall when I was 5 because I was walking around looking through binoculars backwards. Got these 2 massive ring bruises around my eyes. It seems a bit extreme that your parents gave you 2 black eyes for doing that/s. Maybe next time he'll think before running into the wall. Do you know how hard they worked for that wall? He could have scuffed the paint/s.